Tim Lennon on Facebook Live. With Dan Hilsman, here's a lively conversation with a 1,200 agent franchisee joining a leading eXp influencer and eXp founder Glenn Sanford about why and what's the future of real estate for agents.
Don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. Hit that subscribe button below.
We started at the bottom in 2009 in October, and so now we're in our 14th year growing the enterprise. But in some respects, it started almost 21 years ago when I got my real estate license, because it's been knock on wood, I've literally never had a year where we did less business than we did the year before since I got into the business. So it's continued to grow, just in a different structure, different way every year.
So you got in, if I remember, that's a phenomenal record, first of all, because I've been doing it a few years, and I've definitely had down years. So you've had a great run of it overall. But you got in at a time when Keller Williams was just kind of coming out of the ground, right? Did you start with Keller Williams?
I did. Well, no, I didn't start. I started at Prudential, which is now Berkshire Hathaway. So I started with Prudential back in 2002, April 29th, 2002. I got licensed with them. Did a couple of years with Prudential, and then I went to Keller Williams in 2004. And by 2006, I was in the top 50 nationally with Keller Williams. I think they were 40-something thousand agents at the time, and then went independent in 2007, and then started eXp in 2009. So, but fairly short time frame to go from brand new agent to launching a new brokerage concept.
Yeah, absolutely. And a phenomenal process as it went. I've heard some stories from Gene Fredericks about how you were able to get him on board, traveling around the country to enlist folks like him. So that's great. Great stories as I've heard them. I don't know how true they are, but I'm going with his stories.
Yeah, there you go. The stories always sound better than as they mature than was when it was actually being done. So.
Yeah, well, I think there was a story about you traveling in a van or some kind of
a motor coach. Yeah, we did do that.
Yeah,
did 10 months on the road full time without a house to go back to. So we wanted to push the envelope on how remote a company could you actually run your company with. And so back then you had to have a good cellular connection, and at that time there was some cool quasi tech that was coming down that said you could get high-speed internet, as much high-speed internet as you wanted on your cell phone. But by 2 months into our trip, the data plans changed considerably, and it started to cost me about $600 to $800 a month just on my data plan overages.
So that was at a time, if I recall, you started the company right during the recession.
We did, yeah. So prior to eXp, I ran a company called Buyer Tours Realty, and so we were a buyer-based, internet lead gen, team-based brokerage, and we were running teams in 6 different cities around the United States, and we had 6 of the top-ranked websites in the U.S. So I was a SEO, internet marketing guy prior to real estate. When I got into real estate, we built a number of websites to the top of the search engines. And then scaled a number of teams in so doing, and we're up to 4 physical offices in 2008, and then the market turned, and so we closed down 3 of the offices. We actually took one of our teams that we were running as Buyer Tours Realty in Arizona, and we actually got rid of the brokerage and moved all the agents into HomeSmart, which was a brokerage there in Arizona.
Yeah.
And then that Brian Colhane led the team there. And then in 2009, we went about building out what the business model for eXp Realty would be, and then launched it, and then eventually brought them back from HomeSmart to the new model. But yeah, this was housing market was pretty tough. and we had to figure out a way to build a defensible real estate brokerage model that wasn't dependent on bricks and mortar, so that we could have a profitable real estate brokerage in both good times and bad times. And that was really how do you do that? I mean, why start a business if all you're going to do is lose money? And there's a lot of companies that, figured out ways to run those types of businesses, but I didn't want to be one of them.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate you sticking with it. The idea that you started with was something that I had a partner with mine at Remax that we tried to initiate some virtual offices in the early 2000s. And it just was not the right time for people to embrace that kind of move. And even though that was big time for the internet, right? It was just not something that, especially in Georgia, where people are traditional, they wanted to have that office. And moving to that virtual concept made perfect sense to us, but it didn't make any sense to the agents. So that must have been somewhat of a challenge, even at that point, 08 and 09, when we're still coming into our own as an internet kind of world. We weren't there yet.
Yeah, so 2000. So the unique piece of 2009, we had a couple things working to our advantage. One, high-speed internet had finally got to most homes in America. So if we looked at 2002, we were on dial-up internet in almost every home in America. But by 2009, we were cable high-speed internet in almost every home in America. And so for us, we said, okay, we finally got high-speed internet, and that was the enabling technology to do what we really wanted to do. Because even though you could technically be 100% remote with dial-up, uploading photos to the MLS and doing all the stuff that we needed to do as real estate professionals, it's time consuming, and it's a pain to just sit there and wait for the computer to do whatever it was going to do. And but we did recognize that even in 2009, we were still a little early, but we also recognized, kind of like using the Wayne Gretzky quote, we wanted to skate to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is or has been. And so for us, we said, hey, the internet's going to get faster and faster. A lot of these technology pieces that are still pretty clunky, they're going to get worked out. But if we don't, establish ourselves now as a fully, virtual real estate brokerage with a new model, somebody else will do that in the future. And of course, the companies that do it first, continue to enjoy very significant market share down the road. So by being first, you could think about it's almost like Amazon, Netflix. I mean, you just look at so many of these new companies with new concepts, the ones that got solid traction and built out right in the early stages. They are dominant multi-billion-dollar businesses. And so for us, we said, hey, this is where the industry is going. Let's build it now, recognizing that technology will provide what we need in the future, but let's get the infrastructure in.
Yeah, no, it's just brilliant, honestly. And it was risky. I mean, I've been in the industry for a while, so it was a risky move, I think. And, I don't know that people really fully can understand how much you had to be forward thinking to be a first mover in the real estate industry. So, we went from a real traditional world in real estate where brokers were, they were the king of the hill. And then you moved into kind of a Remax era, which is I was part of that process where, Remax was a nothing when I started there, and that was huge. And Keller Williams came along and had a really nice kind of difference attitude to how they approach the industry by approaching it with agents in mind. And now we've moved into an entirely different kind of frame of reference with agents being the center of the organization versus the broker.
Give me a call. Tim Lennon, 404-368-2607.